Yes.
Okay.
Your name, Keisha?
Hotel family, my name is Brother Ray Ray. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History Club. We meet here every other Wednesday in honor of Dr. William Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, Louis Ray Rivera. The Zoom is on the top of it too, like that. The Zoom is right there.
Okay.
Louis Ray Rivera, Gil Noble, Dr. Ben, Ivan Van Sertima, and all the individuals that gave up fame and fortune, big cars, jobs, to bring truth to the people. They didn't have to do that. They could have just went on and did what they had to do. But we have this lecture in honor of them to keep their name alive, because we never want to forget these people. So I'm going to bring you over, Mike, bring the zoom the camera in. We have the Amos collection right here. We sell these books to help Sababa of African World Info Systems, so he can continue the work of Amos Wilson. We have Blueprint for Black Power, Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamic of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. We also have The Falsification of African Consciousness. Sababa's book that he finished for Amos recently is a hot seller. It's a good book. The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat toward a Reclamation of the African Mind. We also have Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children, The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child, Issues of Manhood in Black and White. We have African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order, Confronting the Color Crisis in the African Diaspora, S.K. Damian, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmetology. We have Louis Ray Rivera's classic, Jazz in Jail, when he used to come and lecture for hours. And we have Miss Etta James on Wellness Witness. So we have these books to help out. One of the hottest books that you have to read is The Real Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the Global War on Democracy. When you read this book, you're going to get so goddamn mad it's going to blow your top.
Who's the author?
Author is Robert Kennedy. Oh. Also, The Truth About COVID-19, Dr. McCullough, excellent book. This will bring you on to this one. Excellent. We also have Dr. Scott Whitaker, Met This Sin. He's out of Atlanta, Georgia. This book is excellent.
It's on YouTube.
And he's on YouTube. So we have these books. And if you're interested in getting any of them, you could contact me through my Cash App, or if you have my phone number, and I will get them to you. So, I'm going to announce some, first of all, for the people that's here in this terrible weather that came out to support the Mackey's group, give yourself a good hand. Coming out in the weather, because it's hard weather in New York, so thank you for coming out. But I'm going to give you a few announcements. We have, if you want to see any other copies of Community Cop with Mike Graves, Noel Lee, and Julie, please mute yourself on the Zoom. Please mute yourself on the Zoom. You can see Community Cop, Brother Mike Graves on YouTube. Just type in Community Cop every Tuesday on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Mute yourself, please, Zoom audience. Thank you. Also, if you want to see any of the lectures from the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club, you could YouTube BK William Mackey Jr.'s History Club, and all our videos will come up, except for the 3 banned videos that they did of Dr. Lewis, because they keep, you know, they don't want nothing about the slab. So I have those hard copies, and it'll blow your mind once you get it. Also, On Saturdays, our connection out in Philly, Dr. Empress Cheese Sister Filet, has one of the hottest programs on the East Coast. Saturday at 10:30 on Blog Talk Radio. You type in Blog Talk and you scroll down to New Day Resurrection, and they start at 10:30 and they go. That Philadelphia crew is unbelievable. We want to thank Sister Empress. Also, on Saturdays and tomorrow, Brother Darren Muhammad, State of the City, 12 o'clock, TuneIn Radio and Instagram, Darren Muhammad the Comic, and he's on Facebook Live. That's an excellent program, but Saturday he comes on. And tomorrow, Thorough Black Talk with Keisha, Tad, and Ashe, and they have a new introduction brother on there, and his name is Brother what? Keisha, Brother Black?
Blacksmith. Yeah.
Brother Blacksmith been added to their crew. That's one of the hottest shows on the East Coast. So we have these shows so you could get more information on what's going on. Also, there's a powerful study group on Fridays with our own African Echoes, Brother Trust Graham. You can get in touch with me. I'll send you the link. We're doing the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward the reclamation of African mind. That's excellent. Then you have on Saturdays with Brother True and the Asbury Park brothers that's close to Trust. They're doing the Chancellor Williams, the destruction of black civilization. That's the Saturday. You can get in touch with me. I'll send you the link. That's Saturdays at 1:30. And then you can get in touch with True, and he will give you your email and he will send you. That's an excellent study group. So we have all this stuff going on. So we're kicking off our Women's History Month. And without further ado, we're going to bring in one of our own. I want y'all to give her a great big hand. Sister Keisha from Thorough Black Talk. And her topic is going to be Women of the Revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, Keisha will tell you a little bit more about her show, Thorough Black Talk, on Facebook Live. Without further ado, give Sister Keisha a great big hand.
Everybody can see on Zoom? One person, unmute yourself. Can you see on Zoom?
Yes, we can see you, Sister Keisha.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, it's a little far away and all that.
Far away?
What you got?
Okay.
Yeah. Your best, yeah.
That better?
Okay, yeah, you just have to come in the screen a little bit.
Well, y'all don't have to see my lovely face. Just see the screen.
All right. Okay. There you go.
So yes, as Brother Ray said, our show is live every Thursday evening, 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Tomorrow night, our guests will be the writer and creator of a new film that is in production called Messiah. It is about the life and times of Marcus Messiah Garvey. Last week we had the film's producer and director. So tomorrow we will have the star of the movie, and he's also the writer of it. So they will be with us tomorrow. So now, if everybody can mute themselves, we can begin.
Keisha has to go up laptop.
Yes. So tonight, as Ray Ray said, we're going to talk about women of revolution, black women of revolution. This is a book that I found quite interesting. It's called Set the World on Fire, Black Nationalist Women and the Global Struggle for Freedom, written by Dr. Keisha N. Blaney. Here we have the same namesake. No, I'm not the author of the book. She is the head of Africana Studies at Pittsburgh University. And she has quite a few books, but tonight we're going to discuss two of them. This book in particular deals with the life of the women in the UNIA. Some stayed within the movement, some left the movement and formed other organizations that were just as prominent as UNIA, not just here in the United States, but around the world. So we're going to discuss them. And then we have a feature on Fannie Lou Hamer. I know a lot of you know who she is, but I don't believe the majority of our people know the in-depth story of her life. So we're going to discuss a lot of that. I'm also going to show you the trickery in white liberalism and how they co-opted the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party that she founded. So we're going to do all of that tonight. Don't give Brother Ray Ray a minute here.
I'm trying to mute everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can you, Zoom audience, can you please mute yourself?
I need everybody to mute themselves because it's going to be kind of hard to hear on the screen if it's chatter in the background. And then we'll open up the mic again for questions and commentary and things of that nature later. So please, please, please mute yourselves now.
We have to mute that.
Yes, just mute the mic. Just hit the mic off. Thank you.
You gotta mute.
Okay. Anyway, let's get started. So like I said, this book, Set the World on Fire, Black Nationalist Women and the Global Struggle of Freedom. This book talks about the relationship between Marcus Messiah Garvey, his two wives, and the women of the UNIA. In the beginning of the UNIA, which was founded in Jamaica, with Garvey and his first wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey. A lot of people don't talk about her much. In fact, she's barely spoken of at all. However, it is because of her that the UNIA existed in the first place. And so we're going to give details about how this all started. Also, a little bit of her life and connection between her and the second wife. We're going to give some details, pretty interesting details about that. Because, like the great Brother Trust Graham always teaches us, that in studying, you have to study a subject in its totality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you negate things that are unsavory, you become victim to falling in the same traps and tricks that those who came before us do. And so you want to know the whole story and get the full picture of how everything happened. When people talk about UNIA, they automatically think of Marcus Messiah Garvey. But if it wasn't for Amy Ashwood Garvey and the finances of her parents, there would be no UNIA. In fact, her father was a successful businessman in Jamaica. When she and Garvey first met, she was conscious but became more intrigued with her history and the plight of African people worldwide once she became involved with Garvey. And so she spoke, you know, with her parents, and they had actually the first UNIA meetings were held at her parents' home. So, and in this book, she gives great detail about that. And you guys can get that book wherever it is that you shop for books. I'm not promoting no company over here, but it's up to you. Anyway, so after about a few months or so, she and Garvey, you know, started to like each other or what have you, and then they got married. Now, in the beginning, when they wanted to get the information out to the world, it was she and Garvey that would go by foot, putting pamphlets on the people's doors, little writings that she did because she was the secretary at that time. And they would go on foot, door to door, and deliver this information. They came to New York, and I don't know if you knew where Garvey, anybody know where Garvey lived at here? What was his address?
West 135th Street and 130, right across from the YMCA.
Right, 133rd of West 129th Street is where they lived. And she helped finance that. So again, it's very important that when you look at the greatness of the UNIA and the wonderful work of Marcus Messiah Garvey, you cannot negate Amy Ashwood Garvey because it would not be if she wasn't around at that time. It may have come to fruition, but she was the catalyst in making sure that it happened because she believed in the vision and she wanted us to win as a people. She understood the plight that connected us around the world, and that was our fight against white supremacy. So they had a short marriage, kind of tumultuous, if you will. It led into a bad divorce. There was some commentary that was unsavory on both parts. Garvey accused her of being a cheater and an alcoholic. She accused him of not fulfilling the duties that a husband should. And you have to think back in that time, to have a woman, especially a black woman, who was seen unsavory can be damaging at that particular time. So anyway, they ended up getting divorced and going their separate ways. Now, she left and went to London. This is page 16 of this book, the final chapter. Let's see if I can expand this a little bit more. And it says, although historians have debated the extent of Ashwood's formal role in establishing the organization, none deny the fundamental importance of her organizational skills and social networks to the UNIA's success. The organization's earliest meetings, for example, were held at the home of Ashwood's parents, and Garvey secured some of his earliest financial supporters through those contacts. When the UNIA headquarters relocated to Harlem in 1917, Ashwood remained actively engaged in the organization's affairs. In addition to serving as General Secretary in the New York office, Ashwood played a fundamental role in popularizing the Negro World, the UNIA's official newspaper. From midnight until 4 in the morning, she recalled, Marcus and I trudged around the streets of Harlem, putting a slim copy of the Negro World on the people's doors. By her own account, Ashwood also contributed to the financial growth of the UNIA, relying on her parents' money to meet some of the organization's growing expenses. During the UNIA's early years, Ashwood helped to finance the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. So again, you know, you can read this book at your leisure, but I want to highlight something that she did. Again, I said after the divorce, she left, actually let me just read from here. In 1922, she left New York for London, where she joined a vibrant community of Black activists and intellectuals from Nigeria, Ghana, and Jamaica, and other British colonial territories. In 1924, she helped to establish the Nigerian Progress Union, an anti-colonial organization with Nigerian activist Ladipo Solanke. Years later, in 1935, she opened the International Afro Restaurant and then the Florence Mills Social Parlor, which both provided significant spaces for Black activists and intellectuals in London to socialize and forge political alliances. So, you know, you often hear about our wonderful brothers and the great works that they've done. But, you know, it seems that a lot of Black women are pushed to the side with the greatness that they have put forth. So we cannot mention UNIA without mentioning Amy Ashwood. So I just wanted to highlight that. Also, there was a woman in the organization who, because Garvey was clear and direct in the role of women, in the UNIA, and the role that they should play, he put them in positions of power because he understood that. But then you had those within the organization who preferred that it be more patriarchal. And that became a problem for some people. So one of the women who left was this woman. She's sitting right in the middle, the lighter skinned woman, right? Her name is Minnie Maud Lena Gordon. She left and formed the peace movement of Ethiopia.
Bring it down so they can see her face. Okay, that's good.
She formed the peace movement of Ethiopia. And most people at that time assumed that it would be an organization of women. But as you can see, all of the men who were heads, who were leaders in this organization sitting around her. I think, excuse me, the man standing directly behind her was her husband. But, you know, there is no marital record that I found. I think people called her Mrs. out of respect. She may have been dating this man. I have no idea, but I haven't found. So I can't state that clean. But for the sake of argument, we're rolling. How about that? Okay. So again, she formed this peace movement of Ethiopia, which had about 330,000 members at that time. So this was huge. I think I have a picture of them, here it is, standing at the New York Public Library. Some of the members here. So this was a very successful organization as far as being involved in a lot of businesses, not just here in the United States, but around the world. So you might want to look into Mrs. Maud Lena Gordon on your own time. And again, you can find out more information about her in this book, Set the World on Fire, to start with. So we're going to move right along, because I know we're going to take a break in about half an hour, right?
Yeah, about 8:30.
Okay, great. Also, you need to get this book by Amy Jacques Garvey, Garvey and Garveyism, Introduction by Dr. John Henry Clark, with a son's perspective by Dr. Julius Garvey. This book will give you a bit of insight on the work of the second Mrs. Garvey and her contributions to the UNIA. Also, as the young girls say today, a little bit of tea, is that the second Mrs. Garvey was the first Mrs. Garvey maid of honor in their wedding. So you figure that out. Mm. If that's not some shady boots, that's some shady boots to me. But anyway, I wouldn't have been cool with it, but oh well. So yeah, definitely pick up this book along with Set the World on Fire to get a little bit more insight into these black women and the roles that they played. Now, here is an article from the New York Times dated August 17, 1968. This is an article about the first Mrs. Garvey, Amy Ashwood, who visited New York after many years of living abroad. And in this article, she talks about, you know, how everybody attributes Garvey and the movement to Harlem, but no one ever talks about the meetings they had in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Yeah. So this is online. You can find it for yourself and read it in its entirety. So it's very interesting. But where they met in Brownsville, and I just want to give Brooklyn some love right here, was a church called St. Luke's Community Church at 142 Watkins Avenue in Brownsville section of Brooklyn. The church is not far from Betsy Head Memorial Playground at Dumont, Livonia, Blake, and Strauss Avenues in that area. So, very interesting article. She actually, I believe, died a year or two after this article. So, just a little bit more information on her. Now, I want to get into Fannie Lou Hamer because it's a lot. We got about an hour to go into Fannie Lou Hamer. And here's a book written by the same author, Dr. Keisha N. Blaine. It says, Until I'm Free, that's the title, excuse me. Until I'm Free, Fannie Lou Hamer's Enduring Message to America. Reading this book, I don't know, I was very sensitive and I was in tears reading this book. And it was a lot, it was a lot, real heavy on her life because there were some things that I found out that I had not known. And I asked other people who I respect as far as researchers and students of history didn't know either. So this is a very deep book, and it was a very difficult read for me. So again,
mute yourself, please. Mute yourself.
Shout out to Dr. Filet, I see you. Dr. James McIntosh, I see you. Sister Tam, I see you. What's good? Maybe muting all of y'all, because some people is open. Why don't you just turn the volume down on the left? So anyway, we will begin our discussion. There is a documentary on Fannie Lou Hamer that I personally think was well done. Fair in its portrayal of her. And I'll give you the name of that in a few minutes because we're going to go through that documentary and we're going to discuss it in 10-minute increments. Fannie Lou Hamer was one, anybody know how many siblings she had?
Huh?
How how many siblings she had?
No. I don't know.
She was one of 20. And anybody know how many children she had?
I think she had one.
She had 4 children, none biological. All of them were adopted.
Right.
Because she was a victim of sexual assault and forced sterilization.
Wow.
That was kind of hard for me. Because I'm also friends with Sister Elaine Riddick. You can look up her documentary on YouTube. Sister Elaine Riddick, who also went through forced sterilization. I was introduced to her by Dr. Randy Short, and she is a follower of mine on social media, and it just reminded me of her and put me in a really heavy space when reading that, because as a woman to be violated in that way, I don't even like people to touch me who don't know me. So to deal with that is a whole other thing. But anyway, she was born in Montgomery County, and then later on lived in Rouville, Mississippi. Now, her parents, grandparents, all from the same area. Plantation work, sharecropping work, unfair and unjust. The level of starvation that she endured as a child is real heavy. So I'm just going to prepare you when you have to read this book, if you get it. It's real heavy. She witnessed this most of her life. To know, I don't know if anybody in here or on the Zoom can tell me what dirt tastes like, but that's what she had to eat. At the age of 6 was her first introduction to picking cotton. She was playing outside along the road, and the plantation owner came up to her and asked her, if she knew how to pick cotton. So she said she didn't know. And, being the child that she was, and having a child mind, right, she was lured to do that by the promise of, as Mike said, of candy, a box of Cracker Jacks to be exact. And she picked 30 pounds of cotton as a 6-year-old child. Now you just imagine your children or grandchildren at the age of 6 doing that. So this was her life. A life of fear, not having any education. In fact, she had to check the great Adam Clayton Powell Jr. on that. Later on, Mike said, yes, she did. Later on, as she started her work with the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party, Adam was at that time a little bit more poised in how to deal in the political arena, and he was trying to give her, some pointers or whatever, and she had to check him. And she said, you have no idea what it's like to pick cotton. You don't know what it's like to eat dirt. And you can't tell me nothing. And people respected her raw approach to the conditions of black people in Mississippi. And today, go to the Delta. Go to a town called Glen Allen, Mississippi. I dare you. Go ahead. Go to a town called Webb County, Mississippi. Go ahead. I dare you. You want to see starvation? You want to see,
Real cool.
like I said, this was real heavy. This was real heavy. But it still exists today. So again, we're going to get into the life of Fannie Lou Hamer, and I'm going to use this documentary. I have recorded it just in case it wouldn't rock with us tonight, but we're going to hope for the best. How about that?
You know, Keisha, Adam, in that dialogue, they had it out. He basically told her she don't know who she's talking to.
Exactly.
And she said, Mr. Powell, I'm very well aware of who you are.
Exactly.
She said, but you ain't never picked cotton.
That's right.
So, you know.
She got him and Roy Wilkins.
Straight up.
Roy Wilkins was really on her bad side. She had to G-check him quite a few times. And it really disturbed me, you know, in this...
We've been down so long, we ain't got no other way to go.
As you watch this, I want you to remember what I said. Here is a woman who was sexually assaulted, who had to endure forced sterilization, who adopted 4 children because she couldn't have her own, and knew poverty like no one did. So as you watch her, see the pain in her face. When she speaks, you can see her holding back tears, especially when she gives her testimony at the National Convention. I know all of you know about the beating. She talks about that. Pretty much everybody knows that.
Yes, sir.
But have you ever seen the 2 other women that she talked about? Yvesta Simpson and Anel Ponder. The other 2 girls, not women, who were in the cell, who were also beaten. You're going to see images of them as well, because I want to put a face to it. So that's why I chose this documentary film, because I think we did a good job in portraying that. So, and remember, she only lived to be 59 years of age. But you can see how the stress of it all aged her. So please keep that in mind. All right?
An icon of civil rights history tells her own story in words and song.
I question America. Is this America? The land of the free and the home of the brave. If I hate you because you hate me, I'm no better than you are.
Fannie Lou Hamer's America. The following program contains mature content, including racial epithets used in historical context
1917 in Montgomery County, October 6th.
Born on plantation?
I guess I was.
You know the name of the plantation?
No, I don't. I know my parents moved from Montgomery County when I was 2 years old and some plantation.
Go to the plantation then?
Yes, my parents moved on the plantation when I was 2 and we were landowner about 4 miles and a half from here, almost to the Environment's plantation. And that's where my father and my mother would share houses quite a long time.
Sheep I, where your little lamb, way down in the valley. Birds and the butterflies picking at his eye, and the poor little thing cried, Mama, Mama's gone, Papa's gone. They shall bring some horses, white and black, speckled and gray, all them pretty little horses. When you wake your little pancake and ride a pretty little pony, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, little baby. Mom run away, Papa wouldn't stay, left nobody but the baby. We are tired. We are sick and tired of children suffering from malnutrition. People dying. The clothes 2/3 of the people have on here now is clothes was being sent to them. We are tired of it. We are tired. We are tired of a lot of things. We are tired of working for $3 million a day, going home and being too tired to cook what little we did have. We've been home. We have been taught to have dignity and respect. And you know if we are going through being bit by dogs, some of them being shot down, some of them being beat in jail, we are not fighting back, but we going on because there's nothing right here. What other nation have gone through what we've gone through? You've never heard of no other race but a Negro that marched through a mob crew just to go to school. Why? We work all time and never have enough food. I said, but the white man be riding around in fine cars. I said, they have plenty. But I didn't realize at the time he was stealing it from me. Being one of 20 children, very poor family, sharecroppers in the state of Mississippi, I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to be without clothes. I know what it's like to be without food. To live in a 3-room house with no washroom facilities, just a 3-room shack. So in my earliest childhood, I remember one day I was playing beside this road and the landowner drove up and he asked me could I pick cotton. And I told him I didn't know. I didn't know. At 6 years old, I just didn't know. So he told me, said, I want you to go out in the field, Granny, and I want you to pick 30 pounds of cotton. And if you pick 30 pounds of cotton in a week, I'll carry you to my commissary store and I'll let you get some of the things that you want to eat. So don't you like Cracker Jack? That was exciting because I'd never had them. So I went out in the field and I told my parents, I want to try. And I told her I did. And she told me, said, now, we won't let you cheat. If you pick it, we'll say you pick it. But if you don't pick it, you don't get it. So this made me work very hard. But that week I did pick 30 pounds of cotton. That Saturday, the landowner did keep his promise. He carried me to this commissary store. He gave me some Cracker Jacks and cheese and the daddy white egg sardines. But I didn't realize what he was doing other than that. Because the next week, I was tasked 60 pounds of cotton. By the time I was 13 years old, I was picking 200 or 300 pounds of cotton.
Now, for those who disagree that reparations is owed, you can't tell me that reparations is not owed. To pick 30 pounds of cotton as a baby, and then the next week tasked with doubling that for candy, no pay. Adults at that time were lucky if they were paid $3 a week. And it's still that way today. After this is over with, because I would like to get a crew to go down there and do interviews with people in that area. But it would have to be a strong crew and a vibrant crew, and you got to be violent to do that with me. But it is something on my bucket list to do. And if everything goes right, I'll get it done this year. But again, to have to do this, go to YouTube when I'm done and type in Black Life in Delta, Mississippi. The largest populace of Mississippi is Jackson. Jackson ain't that great. Even though Mayor Chokwe Lumumba is there, Jackson ain't that great. And in fact, if you Google Glen Allen, Mississippi, Webb, Mississippi, you ain't gonna find nothing. They are literally trying to starve these people to death. But again, this is the plight of black people here in this country. And when I hear people who say that reparations aren't owed, I want to stab you in the chest for saying stupid stuff like that. But we'll continue.
I am 17 years old. I picked 300 pounds of cotton a day. I am 9 years old. I have my mom big cotton. I can pick 100 by day. I am 14 years old. And I have my mom big cotton. I pick about 200 a day.
Now at first, I really couldn't understand what it was that made us never have enough food. We worked all the time, but we never had enough to eat. We never had a chance to go to school. So my first reaction to my parents, especially to my mother, was to raise the question to her and ask her, how come we wasn't white? And that was my first really being told off and read off at the same time. Because my mother told me, said, child, you don't understand what I'm saying now, but if you get older, you will understand. There's nothing wrong with you being black. And I don't want you to forget that. I said, if you had, God had wanted you to be another color, you would have been another color. I said, don't be ashamed of being black. And respect yourself as a child. And as you get older, respect yourself as a black woman. You might not understand what I'm saying now, but one day you will understand. Then finally my mother bought me the first black doll I had ever seen. But the only doll that she ever bought me was a black doll. And what my mother was doing, I couldn't understand it then, but I understand now. She was at that time teaching me to respect myself. My mother's mother had 23 children, 20 boys and 3 girls. She was a slave. And we know, as well as you know, that this country was built on the blood and the sweat of black people. And all we are saying to you today, now what you have done in the past, you've done that. But we can't let you get away with poverty. We're just trying to wipe us out.
Still that way today.
When I was about 13, I began to understand what my mother was talking about. And I prayed to God to give me the chance. And I told him if he would just let me live to get grown, I would get out in the streets and on the turn roads. And I would devote my life for seeing that things would be different for any poor person in the state of Mississippi. We have always been taught that we had to suffer as Christ suffered. But I think in terms of what David had to do, David was a shepherd boy. But it did come in a time in his life he had to slay Goliath. Jump down, turn around, kick the big guy. Jump down, turn around, kick the big guy. Oh Lord, kick the big guy. Oh Lord, kick the big guy. Jump down, turn around, kick the big guy. Jump down, turn around, kick the big guy. Jump.
Now remember, from the age of 6, when she first was asked to pick this cotton, until 13, the psychological trauma that she had to endure to want to be white, thinking that maybe it will give her relief from the suffering. But thank God she had a mother who was conscious enough to let her know the beauty in her blackness, to let her understand the beauty of her blackness. You have black women and girls today. If you go on Instagram, look at these Instagram models, ashamed of who they are, altering their bodies, lightening their skin. We still suffer from it today. And you think you've progressed? You're an idiot.
The Student Non-Violent Coordinating Committee came into Louisville. That Monday night, I went over here, right around the corner here, to this church, William Chapel. And the pastor announced at the end of service that there would be a mass meeting that night, that Monday night. My husband drove me from out in the rural area where I had been working to the church. And when we got there, Bob Moses, Lance Giat, Reggie Robinson, James Bevel, Jim Holmes from Smith got up and explained how it was our constitutional right to register and vote, and how it could change, the different laws. Like if we didn't want a law in the town or what was going on, we could vote it out. So that I thought was the most remarkable thing that could happen in the state of Mississippi. Until 1962 that black people could register and vote. I've never even heard that there was in the Constitution.
When little people
never been that nervous in my life. SNCC is the type of people, they call them far left, radicals, beatniks and all of this kind of thing. But they still is willing to go into areas. They work with the people that's poor, they work with the people that never had a chance to be treated as a human being. And if it's necessary, some have already done that, has given their lives for the cause of human justice. We would go to places, to go in to do voter registration, and we talk to people, and we would tell them we was coming back the next day, and by the next day somebody we done got to them, and they would want to talk with us. We would be harassed, and we know cars would be passing the house, loaded with white men, and trucks would be passing there with guns hanging up in the back. Well, it was rough. Year after year, things looked like got worse and worse. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee helped to build confidence in people that they were just about to lose all hope, and that's the truth.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Citizens Council Forum. It's our very real pleasure to welcome back to our microphone today former Governor Ross Barnett of Mississippi.
Dick, it's been my pleasure to participate in your program several times. I'd like to say that it's been my privilege to travel throughout the length and breadth of America during the last 2 years. One thing that has impressed itself upon me throughout my travels, and that is how similar the people of this great nation really are. No matter where they happen to live, they're all about the same.
I know that you were asked about the state of race relations in Mississippi at the present time. What was your answer to that question?
Well, they always ask that question about race relations, and I told them in substance that until all the communist-inspired agitation began, Mississippi actually enjoyed the best race relations of any other state in the nation. I told them that our white and colored citizens knew one another as individuals, and that they cared about one another as individuals. And despite all of the efforts to create ill will and hatred, that I honestly believe that on a person-to-person basis, that the people of Mississippi still have the most cordial race relations in the nation. And I told them that we are all going to try to keep it that way, both the white and the black. I told them that our voting qualification laws are sound, and they are. That they have been upheld by the federal courts time and time again. And there's no question about that. I told them that our registration officials understand that these laws must be administered fairly, with no one placed under any undue burden. That all are to be treated alike. I told them that the record would show no proof whatsoever that any qualified applicant in Mississippi has ever been actually denied registration because of his color or race or national origin. But whatever mistakes have been made, if any have been made, probably were errors of judgment by part-time registrars. To put it in simple language, it is not that some qualified have been denied the right to vote. It is probably a matter of some, perhaps unqualified white applicants who have been registered to vote.
Now, you have politicians today who are advocating for illegal immigrants to have the right to vote because of what they endured. What the hell did they endure that our people haven't endured? This is the nonsense, and this is why we have to be a little bit more strategic in our political approach and not falling for the okie-doke. How do they allow that? And I'm telling you why. Because black people are waking up. Thanks to independent outlets of media, black people are waking up and putting pressure on politicians. And the Democratic Party is losing its black base without tangibles on the table. And they see it, and they see what's coming down the pipe. So now they want to keep the party afloat. And in order to do that, they want to have people who just arrived, 30 days is all you you need when you can place a vote? How can those persons speak for me and my ancestors? Ask yourselves these questions. And again, let's move on.
I began from the first beginning, August the 31st in 1962, but I traveled
These are plantations, by the
to
way.
the county courthouse to try to register to become a first-class citizen. I was met by my children when I returned from the courthouse, and my girl and my husband's cousin told me that this man that we had worked for was raising a lot of cane. And about that time, the man walked up, Mr. Marlowe, and he said, "Is Fannie Lou back yet?" So my husband said, "She is." I walked out of the house at this time. He said, "Fannie Lou said, you've been to the courthouse to try to register, and we are not ready for this in Mississippi." I said, "Well, I didn't register for you. I tried to register for myself." He said, "We are not going to have this in Mississippi, and you will have to go down and withdraw." And he said, "I'm looking for your answer, yea or nay." So I just looked. And he said, "I'll give you to in the morning." And said, "If you don't go down and withdraw, you will have to leave. And if you do go down and withdraw, it's only how I feel. You still might have to go." So I left that same night. 10 days later, on the 10th of September, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker, the people that I had gone to live with.
I don't find that there is any great deal of intimidation. I'm sure that there is some intimidation. And I'm sure that that intimidation does exist in every state of the American Union. My name is Charles McMahon. I work in voter registration in Sunflower County. On January 25th, 1963, I went to the mayor's office in Indianola, Mississippi. The purpose was to see if there were any laws on the book that forbid voter registration activities in the city. The mayor jumped on his feet and said, "You black son of a bitch, don't you come in here arguing at me." I told him that we were there to do voter registration, and that if there were any laws that forbid it, to let me know. And he said no. I turned to walk away, and he called me back, said, "Go out and teach everybody in the town. I don't care. If you go into any churches, I will cut off the tax exemption." For instance, you had some 28 to 30,000 qualified in the state to participate in the last campaign for Congress, which took place just a few weeks ago. And of that 25 or 30,000 that could have participated, there were only about 4,500 votes that were cast. The trouble is that it's like the white man was not interested. My name is Jesse Harris. I participated in voter registration in Mississippi Delta. It was during 1962. I was arrested in Jackson for contempt of court and fined $100 fine and 30 days in the Hines County Farm. The first time I was beaten was in Hines County on the elevator. Officers asked me my name and where I'm from, and I told them I was from Jackson. And so he beat me and hit me inside the head in the back.
state representative. It carries me back to 61, the time when Reverend Lee at Belzona was on his way home and was shot going in his driveway. It brings me up unto other people that have been killed. And it brings me then to 1963, when I was arrested in Wyoming, Mississippi.
Here she's going to, as you know, talk about what happened at the bus station. And again, when she mentions Sylvester Simpson and Arnell Punda, you get to see what those two sisters look like. Beautiful young sisters who were beaten the same as she was.
I had been to a voter registration workshop, they were just training and teaching us how to register, to pass the literacy test. And it was giving us enough training that we could tell other people, how to pass the literacy test. We finished the workshop, and then we got the Continental Trailway bus to come back to Mississippi. And we got to Wyoming, Mississippi, I would say about 10:30 that Sunday morning. And 4 people got off the bus, to use the restaurant to get food, and 2 people got off, used the washroom while I was still on the bus. When I looked through the glass, I saw the people rush out, and I stepped off to see what had happened. And Miss Ponder told me that it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police on the inside, and began to tap them on the shoulder with billy clubs and ordered them to get out. And I said, well, this is Mississippi. I saw them when they began to put the 5 people that was, off the bus, began to put them in the highway patrolman's car. And she said, get back on the bus, Miss Heyman. And then I heard somebody scream from the car that she was in and said, get that one there. And then a white man stepped out of a car and told me I was under arrest. And when he opened the door and I went to get in the car, he kicked me. And they carried me on down to the county jail. And then when I walked in with the 2 white men that had carried me down, and they cursed me all the way down. They would ask me questions, and when I would try to answer, they would tell me to hush. And I was put in a cell with Miss Sylvester Simpson. And after I was put in the cell, I could just hear some horrible screams. And I would hear somebody when they say, can't you say yes, sir, nigga? Can't you say yes, sir? And they would call her names that I wouldn't want to go on tape. And she said, yes, I can say yes, sir. So I said, and she said, I don't know you well enough. And I would hear when she would hit the floor again. And finally she began to pray. And she asked God to have mercy on these people because they didn't know what they was doing. And after a while they passed my cell with this and El Hunger. And one of her eyes looked like blood, and her hair was standing up on her head, and her clothes had been torn. And then 3 white men came to my cell, and one of them was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from, and I told him.
Somebody is on, the mic is open, can you mute yourselves because you're interrupting?
Mute them all.
Turn down the volume on the left. Thank you.
If you mute them, they can hear you, but you won't hear them up there.
I know, but Ray got something up here and I don't want to tell you.
Hakeem, keep yourself. Hakeem.
Thank you. Thank you, Hakeem.
I was from Louisville, but I guess he called me, and they did like me in Louisville because I worked with voter registration there. And when he came back, he said, you damn right, he said, you from Louisville, all right, and we gonna make you wish you was dead. And they led me out of that cell to another cell.
Okay, Zoom.
And he gave a Negro prisoner a blackjack.
first Negro that had beat to sit on my feet while the second one beat. And I just began to scream where I couldn't control it. And then the white man got it and began to beat me in my head. I have a blood clot now, and an artery to the left eye, and a permanent kidney injury on the right side from that beat.
We're going to take a break now.
I guess so.
But again, when you hear people say reparations aren't owed, shove them down a flight of steps, because this is serious business, and it's just not monetary. Me personally, I believe reparations is economic and it must be paid in blood. I think we have, as a people, become far too passive in our approach, and not just here in the United States, around the globe. Real passive with dealing with this white enemy that we have, the Arab enemy that we have, the Asian enemy that we have, and the black turncoats that we have. Even those who do us harm. It's a no hands-off approach, you know, but it's these same people who I see on social media saying they stand with Ukraine. You are sick, and you need to understand history. History is the blueprint and the foundation for everything that you do in your life. Everyone understands that. We have to understand that. So we're about to take a break, and then we'll get back. Question and answers, part 2. For those who want to contribute via Cash App to the B.K. William Mackey Study Group, you can go to $Mackey 104. Okay, you got it in the chat?
Okay, I got if you want to donate to the Mackey's Group family, the Cash App is in the chat. If you leave your number, put your number in the chat, I will write it down and I will text you the times we're going to have the next speakers at Mackey's. Put your email and your number in the chat and I'll write it down. And then the next Wednesday after, I will text you and you'll know who to speak and what time we're going to start. So you can unmute yourself and have conversation. We're going to have some soup and croissants in the other room. So you can unmute Zoom audience. Give Keisha a great big hand. If you want to donate to the Mackey's Group, the Cash App is in there. So you can unmute and
Thank you. And again, y'all can get this book. It's all available online, and it's called Until I'm Free. Fame, Famous, Enduring Message to America, written by Dr. Keisha N. Blaine. Any questions so far?
Okay, anybody want soup? Come into the other room
For the Zoom crew. Yeah, the Zoom crew. What are we doing here afterwards? Yeah. Yes, Brother Ray will upload this onto YouTube by the end of the week for you. So all you have to go to is B.K. William Mackey History Club, and you can see all of the past lectures up there as well.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, come on in.
Any other questions from Zoom?
I got a comment. I'm Achamu. Pleasure to be there with y'all. I heard about the Grand Duke Sister Amber, but I didn't know. I heard she been beat down, but I knew we kind of freedom from the shit.
Okay.
You know what I'm really thrilled about? I'm glad I got that sister invited me. I was kind of, boy, yeah, I checked out. I'm in the trouble, but I want to say something if I got a chance. I want to chat and give my number. I'm locked up. I can't get on my phone, and I'm on my laptop. And it will not, like, I can do everything for chat. And Brother Ray, if you could send, if you could take my, if I could tell him now, right now, or give me his number and put it on the chat, I would like to contact him because I like to have updates myself.
Sure. Once he comes back into the room, I will let him know that, and then we'll put it in the chat, okay?
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you. Any more from the Zoom before we do it here?
Yes, Sister Keisha. Outstanding.
Dr. Mack, how are you?
Outstanding presentation, what I've seen so far, and
thank you.
If I get the time that's supposed to happen again, I'll definitely be back. And if the brother could post the cash app back in the chat again, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you, Dr. Mack.
That's Dr. Mack. Yeah. How are you, Dr. Mack?
I'm great, my brother.
Great.
Hey,
You can get it.
yeah, good.
Okay, cash app. Let me see if I can put it. Can you guys see it? Or?
Drop it right at the brother's feet.
Okay, that's a dollar sign back in.
Yes, 104.
104.
Yes.
Come over there.
Thank you.
Well,
Daddy, your daddy's been killing me with that. You see that over there? Your father used to be cracking me up.
any more from the Zoom? Or we move to the outside?
Oh, you want to take this picture?
Hello, this is Sister Adiola.
Hello, sis, how are you?
I'm well. Just a little tired, so I didn't want to show up tonight, but I'm just enthralled by this presentation. I'm so thankful to you for what you put together here.
Thank you.
So, it's powerful and inspiring, and I'm just so thankful for what you put together. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Which airs every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. So I'm a firm believer in us promoting each other. It's very important that we understand we have to do that, especially in these times. So again, if you have something going on, or if you want me to come to your organization to do a lecture, whatever, then you can definitely reach out to Brother Ray or myself, and we'll make it happen, okay? So everyone, please mute yourselves so we can continue. And being in independent media, it's very, very important that I allow the subject to tell their own story. So that's why I present the way that I do, so that there is no muddling of the water, if you will, with the subject. So we'll continue and listen to Ms. Hamer in her own words, and again we will break and discuss various points. So everyone please mute. So now we have just finished hearing about the assault that she had to endure, just going out to get people to try and vote so that they can change some of the conditions that they had in Mississippi. Again, I said in the beginning, these conditions still exist today. I was watching a video of an interview. There was a sister who did great interviews with people who live in that area. And they want to pick cotton so they can live. That's how bad it is out here.
I was out on the road most of the time. They want me to come from place to speak. Voter registration and trying to get more people involved. That's what we worked on most of that whole summer. Normally, Smith is
is trying to do, and the young people that came into Mississippi from the 1964 project, all they are trying to do is to say these are human beings and they're supposed to be treated like anybody else. Nobody in your car won't try to talk you into it. The white people in the movement, especially the young people, is just as dedicated, they just as pure in wanting to change for all human beings. And I just have faith not only in the young Negroes, but in the young whites. They will be working in the South and fight all over the country to bring a change in the United States. I'm just wondering if people in this room understand, one, that people should be expected to get beaten, they should expect to spend in jail, and that they should expect possibly somebody to get killed. I also know some people like Andy Goodman, Michael Sherman, James Shea, the gang guys in the state of Mississippi, that all of us would have a better chance.
That's his mother, James Cheney's
And when
mother.
they die,
What's happening here? But that was James Cheney's mother at his funeral service.
and they didn't just die for me, but they died for you, because your freedom is shot to change America. And until I'm free, you are not free either.
We organized into the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, encouraging every Negro and white who wants a stake in his political future to prove it by getting his name on a freedom registration book.
Also, those shacks still exist today. People still live in them today.
The reason we have a Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, we weren't allowed to participate with the regular Democratic Party in Mississippi. When we went to visit the precinct meeting in Roosevelt, it was 8 of us, 8 Negroes, and we went up to this polling place where they would hold precinct meetings, and they had this place closed. It was locked up, so we stood at the nearest place, which was right down by the steps on the lawn, and we held our own precinct meeting. We elected our chairman, our secretary, our delegates, and our alternates, and we passed a law to resolution. And we moved from the precinct level up to the state. Then on the 24th of April, 24th or 6th of April, 1964, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party was organized at the Masonic Temple in Jackson, Mississippi. The Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party is only beginning, and it is beginning on the basis that it believes that a political party should be open to all the people who wish to subscribe to its principles. That means it's open to use a certain of the planner on whose foundation you work if that person has reached the point that he's willing to subscribe to your principles. And there's some people in this room here that was in Atlantic City with us when the delegation went from Mississippi to challenge the seating of the regular delegation at that convention in Atlantic City.
On Monday, the 1964 Democratic National Convention will open here in Atlantic City to nominate President Lyndon B. Johnson.
We believe that we will be seated in this convention because it is right. If you tell the truth, you don't have anything to hide.
The seating of the delegation from the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party has political and moral significance far beyond the borders of Mississippi.
comes up, again, she is in her late 40s. And I want you to see the stress of this fight on her, how it aged her. I want you to pay attention to her trying to hold back the tears. Remember, she's coming with her story of being sexually assaulted, her story of being forced into sterilization, her story of starvation, the story of her not being able to have her own children, the story of the 4 children she adopted, the story of the people in Mississippi that she grew up with, that was suffering during her time. Again, remember, she didn't even know she could vote until 1960. Pay attention to this.
What the next witness will explain, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Easton and Senator Stinnett. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America? The land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones out to the hood, because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America. Thank you.
You can see it, that's right.
They offered us 2 seats at large. We refused to accept a compromise. I told them in Atlantic City, if something's supposed to have been mine 100 years, don't offer me 2 of it today. No, don't give me a bite of what I'm supposed to have, the whole thing, 100 years. If you don't give me all of it, just keep the 2. Then 3 of us decided to run for Congress. Ms. Annie Devine, Victoria Gray, and myself. When we tried to get on the ballot, they refused to put our names on the ballot. But our names was put on a freedom ballot because we made our own ballot. Right. And we didn't just write the black people's name on the ballot. We included the white people on the ballot. And I received 33,009 votes against my opponent's 49 votes. And I didn't say 49,000. So this made us, the 4th of January 1965, come to Washington. We had made the challenge at the convention for the delegation. In 1965, we were making the challenge for the 5 representative seats.
Here they come, followers of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. They've been here at the House of Representatives all day long. They are all now under arrest, charged with unlawful occupancy of a public building.
Police officials there at the house, you would have thought we was carrying secret information from the United States.
You recognize that, attorney, right?
Who's that?
You recognize that, attorney, right?
It's a blonde, white hair.
Where you come
Oh, that
from?
council.
That's a young council.
It's council.
To Russia, the way they, acted as though we was carrying a bomb or something. The congressman from my district me, throw them out. Congressman out of place Powell said, if you go on the floor today, you'll be the first Negro women in the history of the United States that have ever gone on the floor of Congress. And I said, you can get your pen and start writing because we're going to make history today. Because we want to see, I want to be on the floor of Congress when I watch another part of democracy go down the track.
Now, right after this, when she went back home, police barged into her home. Her husband's name is Pat, and began to question them about their sexual relations. This is the sickness of these folks. Again, you can find all of this in the book, Until I'm Free. But this is what she had to consistently endure.
And regardless of all the things that we went through, in 1963 and 1964, we didn't have many people registered in Mississippi. But today we have 60% of the black population registered in Mississippi. We have 42 elected officials in the state of Mississippi. And one day you'll be proud when you can say, Senator Fannie Lou Hamer, because I'm on my way with it. Our top priority is doing what we have to do here in our own country to try to heal some of the wounds that's so very deep. And we're going to fight for peace. We're going to demand peace until every one of us have peace in this United States.
Just remember that Mrs. Hamer was clear in her mission. She didn't talk about LGBTQ rights, Latino rights, white women rights. She was clear in her mission, though those around her began to co-opt what she was doing for their own benefit. And so they benefited from her work. She was, as it says right here on the screen, one of the first people to speak out against the Vietnam War. Because of our brothers who were coming back, who was so, well, they call it PTSD now, but destroyed from that. And she saw that, and she saw the repercussions of that, because she began to hire some of them once she got funding to start her own farm in Mississippi, of which she is buried on to this day. I have to get down and I have to get to that gravesite.
I've been very concerned with young black people in Mississippi, and there's no need of getting an education.
we have been black powerless people for 400 years. I've seen people boxed in, black children, in Harlem of New York. I've seen people boxed in, black people, in Chicago, Illinois, in the slums, with the babies sick, rats eating on the babies. So what we mean by black power is we mean to have not only black political power, but black economic power, to have a voice in the educational system, that our kids will know, not only the black kids, but the white kids should know the kind of contributions that have been made by black people throughout this country. We want to determine some of our destiny. And this is what black power means. We want to have something to say about our destiny.
Again, clear. Political power, economic power. She didn't say, so we can all get along. She didn't say, we got to worry about LGBTQs. None of that. None of that. So from Amy Ashford Garvey to Fannie Lou Hamer, clear in their approach and what they must do.
You see, and I'm really fed up in hearing the word compromise. I've got to get just a little taste of what I suppose had every bit of it 100 years ago. White people are trying to resection you where you won't have as much power, you know. Well, one night I went to bed, didn't turn over, and I woke up in another district, and we still in the door. You have to go to court when it was. I didn't come to Washington to hear no bill being legislated that they would feed me in 1972. What in the world is going on between 1972? I'm thinking about what you're going to do for my people in December. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. For so many years, Negroes have suffered in the state of Mississippi. And we are tired of people saying that we are satisfied because we are everything but satisfied. A person that was born in the middle class that have never had to suffer. You know, he can afford to take things maybe easier than I can, and all I've ever done was suffer. A person that's born in the middle class,
She looking at that one
things somewhat decent, he can't make a decision for me because he actually don't know how I feel. I never will forget Mr. Wilkins came to me one day from the NAACP that I find out at that national convention was the National Association of the Advancement of Certain People in Mississippi. And he came to me and told me, he said, you people are ignorant, you don't know anything about politics. You put your pearl, why don't you pack up and go home? And we got to let people know how we feel. We are not satisfied because we know. In the 4th chapter of St. Luke in the 18th verse said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. It was his purpose here, was preaching and speaking to the poor. So mostly what the middle class, bourgeois, white and black, because I've seen white tongues, Negro tongues, they're concerned about the person that's already got something. They're not trying to bring no change when these people don't have anything, you know. If they go into an area, they're going into the best part of the neighborhood. They're going to get with the best type of people. And see, that's the hypocrisy of this whole country. Mississippi is still a very rough place. You know, people is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out. You know, shooting a man down, getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying out and lynching him, but it's in a most settled way. You know, they let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. People in Mississippi are still hungry. People in Mississippi are still living in run-down, dilapidated shacks. You see,
That's her husband, Pat.
Because my daughter is 17, stayed in the hospital one time, 6 weeks suffering from malnutrition. And it's not because we are lazy, it's not because we have to work hard, but it's because we've never been paid for our work. We're fighting for the rights of all human beings, and we're going about the thing in a very good way. Because we know if you give us food, we can eat a few days. But if you give us the tools, we'll produce for ourselves. I just don't want people to have to give me and my people a welfare check. I want some land. We've been able to help a lot of people. We grow our own vegetables, butter beans, peas, okra, potatoes, peanuts, started this pig bank program. The plan of the thing is that it can grow to produce enough that people just won't know what hunger is. Freedom Farms Cooperation is one of the best things that ever happened in Sunflower County. For the first time in our lives, we will have a chance to control some of our destiny. I don't be ashamed when somebody come here and I can go in the kitchen and fry some ham, open some soup, and have some vegetables. Once you have been hungry and have to stay hungry, when you see them that's suffering, you want to change it for them too. She had the inability to say no to people who were in need. And what happened was typical of Fannie Lou. Sometimes when they were wanting to make the payments on the farm, if someone came who needed money to make a payment on a house or buy food or for utilities or for whatever, Fannie Lou would let them have it. And so help me God, the cry of hunger is the cry of hunger whether it comes from black, white, brown, or red. Today I'm not ashamed of being black. I'm not ashamed of my history. That was 1962. Nobody knew that I exist. Nobody. And I hadn't learned to be a leader. And then one day, the 31st of August, I walked down off the plantation. And from that time over to now, I met a lot of people. I met a lot of great people, both blacks and white, people that we have walked together, talked together, cried together. It's been very interesting. There's some good people in this country. That's what gives me strength to keep going. Just like somewhere in Mississippi, whether he's afraid to speak out or not, somebody here is good. Some of these white people. And one day they'll speak out. And until that time, we have to fight until he gets the nerve to say, we're going to fight together. Run, 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 run,
Somebody from Baker and others on her life.
She had lived it. She had experienced things that many of us could never think of facing. And yet, she could smile, she could shout, she could make other people happy, and if necessary, she could cuss them up.
She wasn't afraid. Miss Hamer told me that he was. And everybody found out how people were being treated here in this Delta land.
Oliver Wendell Holmes once wrote that as life is action and passion.
Look who giving a eulogy of all people.
Share the action and passion of their time at the risk of being judged not to have lived. By Holmes's standard, Mrs. Fannie Hamer truly lived and leaves to us today an irrevocable legacy of service, of commitment, of sacrifice, and of love.
It's hard for me to stand up and sing the national anthem. I stand up and I work my mouth. But I don't always come through with the verses. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what's so proud we hate it? Because action is the land of the free and the home of the brave have meant the land of the tree and the home of the grave for so many of us. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. You see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We have to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. We're in the water. We are not dealing with men today. The 6 chapter of Ephesians in 11 and 12 verse that put on the whole armor of God, that he may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. The 12th verse says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against power, against principalities, against the rulers of darkness of this world, spiritual weakness in high places. And people, whether you believe it or not, you better remember this today. A house divided against itself cannot stand. A nation that divided against itself cannot stand. And it's 2 past midnight, and we on our way out.
So again, family, thank you all for joining us. I would hope that this reignited something in you to stay the course, especially black women. We have carried this nation and others on our back. Our brothers continue to suffer. We have to come up with a different approach. But in order to do that, you have to understand where we've been. I started with Amy Ashwood Garvey, the UNIA, and ended on Fannie Lou Hamer. I would encourage all of you to study your own family history. 2013, I was able to go down to South Carolina, still South Carolina, to the plantation that my ancestors picked cotton on, to the grave site that my great-great-great-great-grandfather is buried. Saturday, this past Saturday, I was honored to give testimony to the African American Civil War Museum as part of a document of our ancestor who fought in the Civil War. When people tell you that you have no legacy, you have to be able to combat that. You have this mantra now of people saying, forget about the past. Move towards the future. You can't move towards the future if you don't understand the past. Because this is why we keep getting tripped up in politics, in economics, and even protecting ourselves. Anybody can come in and do whatever they want to black people. In Mississippi, if you've been watching Community College, there was a fast food restaurant owned by an Asian family. A young black sister was accused of taking something who worked there. And the Asian store owner slapped her in her face. Don't tell me we still not dealing with this. Go to any family court in the districts in which you live and just sit there for a while. If you don't believe we still dealing with all of this today, we like to turn a blind eye. Unfortunately, a lot of us become distracted. And that's not accidental. To keep you distracted from your main course. Again, Fannie Lou Hamer said, she said to herself when she was a child, she prayed, God, if you let me live to be an adult, I will make it my business to fight for my people. She stayed the course. You heard testimony by Ella Baker on behalf of Fannie Lou Hamer. I would love to do a presentation on Ella Baker by itself. That's for another time. But these women were courageous. Your own mothers and grandmothers. Think about that. Think about the lives that they had to come through. To see where my family came from, nobody can tell me nothing. Don't tell me reparations ain't due. Don't tell me we got to worry about other groups, because no other groups are worrying about us. It's okay to be selfish in your plight for survival. It's okay. We got to understand that. So, again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who came out in this terrible weather. I appreciate it. This documentary can actually be found on YouTube. It was done by Public Access Television. The title of it is Fannie Lou's America. Again, you can get the book that I showed you all, Until I'm Free, which will give you more in-depth detail about her life and things that weren't talked about. You should also get this book, Set the World on Fire, by the same author, Dr. Keisha in Blaine. Because today, when we get offline, go to YouTube, go to Google, go to Amazon, and put in white privilege cards. These are sold on Amazon today. Today. Millions of black people shop on Amazon. When will we say enough is enough? Though this is supposed to be a gag gift, where is the human in it? It says, this card grants its bearer happiness and success because this card grants its bearer happiness and success because it's the color of your skin and not the choices that you make that determine your ability to be successful. This is sold on Amazon. We're still faced with the images of slavery, the images of white supremacy, and this is against the law within itself. That's for another conversation at another time. They got to have a nerve to have a black man in the end selling these cars. The company is Q Joey. I think that's the name of the brand. If you could Google the brand, find them on social media and flood their sites with your discontent of it. We close out this lecture. I hope you all learned something and can share it with your family and friends. And let's keep this momentum going, studying who we are, in-depth study, not listening to what other people tell us about who we are. Because again, white organizations and white movements co-opted this movement of Fannie Lou Hamer for their own benefit and got what they wanted. And they're still doing it today. Both political parties are co-opted, and you cannot win within them. But they still keep telling you to play along, to get along. But how long are we going to keep playing this game before we walk away from it? Before we do for ourselves? The same way George Edwin Taylor did in the early 1900s when he formed the first black political party. You can Google that for yourselves as well. He was the first black man to run for president in these United States in the early 1900s under the Universal Negro Political Party. So we have to figure things out. Again, I thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, let's go to the Zoom first. Any questions? Y'all can unmute yourselves. I don't know how to do radio. This computer, I don't want to touch it.
And I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement, and maybe Dr. McIntosh can back me up on this and clarify. I would go out on a limb and say, like a prediction, or a posthumous prediction of Dr. Amos Wilson, what he would say about what's going on right now in terms of the Ukraine is a perfect example of white-on-white violence. And I'll stand by and listen if there are any comments on that.
Any other comments or questions on the Zoom? On the Zoom.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I think what they're doing in Ukraine and Russia, that's just like they did on January 6th in the Capitol. And as a matter of fact, myself, I said to the brother, I said, January 7th, I said, I wouldn't care if they went up there and did whatever they do. I don't want to talk I don't want to talk treason. But if they did what they did, that would have been their business. That's the same way I feel. They talk about black folks. I hear these different people. There's so many people trying to just please, that's what we going to do. If you went in the military, you volunteer. If you went over to the school, you volunteer. And sometimes it's a cash issue, or I'm not saying this right. But like you said, we don't think about ourselves. We always worry about some other group, and political system right on. And if you can't give me that brother's name again with UNA who ran for president first time, black man.
The first black man who ran for president in the United States, I believe it was 1901, I have to double check the date. His name is George Edwin Taylor. And he ran under the George Edwin Taylor. He ran under the Universal Negro Party. Matter of fact, I think I can pull it up.
Universal. UNIA.
No, that predates UNIA by 13 years. It was founded in Jamaica and 15 years before here in the United States.
So this is the Universal Negro
Party.
Oh, gosh, okay. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Okay, brother, kind of called me out, asking me, I don't know who it was, but I want to say this, that the contradiction for me is What do you do? I thought 6 million was supposed to be an important number. It's not important in the Congo, right? So that's what I have to say to that.
Facts, Dr. Mann.
It's also life.
Any other comments or questions in Zoom? Then I'll get to you, Veronica. One second.
Yes, Sister Keisha, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yes, I just want to thank you for your presentation, very informative. I appreciate the fact that you took your time to do such thorough research, and you did our sister a great service by presenting her the manner that you did. So I just want to say kudos to you, and I appreciate the information. And I want to also give a big up to Brother Ray for continuing to organize this very, very important lecture series. You know, knowledge is power, and power is the ability to exercise control, authority, and influence. So I deem this to be very, very important. And I thank the ancestors and the Creator that all of you take time out from your busy day to provide such a great service for our community. Thank you once again, Sister Keisha.
Thank you.
What's up, Leader One?
Yes.
Mike Gray said, what's up?
Peace.
Peace.
That's the legal assassin. That's what I call. That's what I call Noel, the legal assassin.
Sister Keisha.
Yes.
Sister Denise from Philadelphia.
How are you?
All right, thank you for the presentation. And prior to you coming on here, I was reading about fake movies. And
wow.
This is something that happened in the, like when she was up the MK, I like to read this. This is a small paragraph, how they thought of her. Lyndon Johnson, last minute attempt to push her off the air to avoid elevating white Southern voters. When potential Vice President nominee Herbert Humphrey was ordered by President Johnson to stop the illiterate woman and urged Ms. Hamer to accept the unjust compromise, offering the MSDP 2 at-large seats instead of the opportunity to replace the segregated delegation. She refused. She wanted to sit at the Democrat Party table and not be thrown to a few Democrat Party crumbs over the South Side.
Facts.
That's one of my mentees anyway, so I look up to her. And I would like to also get the name of your book again, because I didn't hear.
It's not my book. We just have the same name. I'm not the author of the book. Her name is Dr. Keisha N. Blaine, and the name of the book is Until I'm Free.
Until I'm Free?
Yes, that's the name of the book, Until I'm Free.
Okay, also I was listening to Sister Dr. Karen. She had a young lady who went to the University of Pennsylvania, and her studying has took her, she's been studying Ukraine country. She got a degree, a PhD, and she was over there for 13 years after she left University of Pennsylvania to go over there to study. And what she say is, you have you have Ukrainian African people over there, because we all over the continent. And what it is that racism is all over, okay? And if you are color, we want to sustain that kind of racism, but we have to begin to know who we are, wherever we are. And I took the initiative today because I was very concerned about the black African students when they had walked 8 hours to get, because they over there studying because it was cheaper to go over there and get education. So when they're gonna walk 8 hours to get on the bus or the train, and they tell these people that we gotta let all the Ukrainian people get on, and you must get off. And some of the young people was like, why should I have to get off? They trying to save their life the same way you're trying to save your life. So I called my senator, U.S. I let them know that I'm concerned about our African people that's over there trying to get home. They like, this is important as your life. So I know I grew up in this area right here, North Philadelphia. I've been here since 1957. I'm 64, and I grew up with the Black Panthers feeding us, and then when they feed us our breakfast, they told us, this is your community. This is where you live, brothers and sisters. Take care of your community. Take care of each other. I'm still here.
who got questions, and we got to get out of here. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Go ahead, everyone.
Yeah, just wanted to say for the record that there was a heated debate between Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes.
But they both were right.
Facts.
It's not that Fannie Lou Hamer was right and Adam was wrong.
That's right.
It was just two different arguments.
Right.
You know, Adam knew that he represented black people all over.
Right.
And she was under a notion that even though he was well known, she felt he was from Harlem and that he never picked cotton.
Right.
But Adam's position was, I feel your pain.
Mm-hmm.
And the way things are set up, you're not going to have any representation.
Right.
So I'll get on the floor and represent, you know, the Freedom Democratic Party in Mississippi.
Right.
So, you know, they both was arguing for the same reason, but she insisted that they be there.
Right.
He wanted representation there, so he was saying, I got you, but it was just two different arguments. So I understood perfectly, and I'm a big fan of Adam, but I knew what she was saying.
Right.
But I also knew what Adam's position too.
Right.
Yeah, but
thanks for that.
Even though, you know, it wasn't that he was siding with Johnson, because Johnson didn't want them represented, and certainly the state of Mississippi didn't want them represented, but I understood both sides.
Right. Thanks for that, man.
You got another question?
Yeah, but who represented?
Hold on 1 second, sis. You got one here on the floor. Give me 1
who
second.
represented Mississippi? Because he was representing Harlem.
No, he wasn't. Adam represented every black person in America. He's always done that.
But
everything he
I
did.
think he's saying the area he came from was Harlem.
Although he was elected to Harlem.
Right. Oh, no, if you want to.
See, that was her, but that wasn't her.
But that's a tribal argument. You know, I'm from here, you and outside.
Right, you're absolutely right. And so at some point, but when it comes time to voting, when money's at allocation, all that deal with numbers, right? All that deal with numbers.
And that benefited everybody. In other words, when Adam Clayton Powell fought on the floor for funding school education, that was for the entire country, black folks all over. It wasn't just for Harlem.
That's the committee he was a part of.
Well, that's where your fights are going to be.
Do it.
He was in charge of education. So, but I'm just saying overall that both of them had a legitimate side to their position. It wasn't that Adam was wrong, and I wouldn't want people to think Adam Clayton Powell was arguing on behalf of President Lyndon Baines Johnson. He wasn't.
Not at all.
You know, he wasn't doing that. Lyndon Baines Johnson didn't want her to be seen. As a matter of fact, he made sure that when she was on the floor talking, he preempted her to make sure that there would be no live footage of her on the floor. When they saw her on the floor, that was late that night.
Yes.
So he preempted her. I'm just saying, Adam Clayton Powell wasn't a part of that process.
Right.
To ice her out. He was not.
No, he wasn't. Okay, we got one in the Zoom, and then I'll get to Veronica. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, this is Adele. I just needed to get the cash out accurately because when I'm missing something because I'm getting a white guy. I know you.
Oh, no. Hold on 1 second. $ Mackey's with an S. With an S. Get it.
Mackey was spell it out.
Mackey's 104.
But can someone type it in the chat?
I already put it in the chat.
Yeah, he'll put it in.
I have it off the chat.
Okay, let me put it in again.
Okay,
let me put it in again.
While you put that in there, we'll go to Veronica then. Was that your question, sis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's it. I'm thank you.
All right, so then we'll go to Veronica. Go ahead, sis.
I was just going to state that I see all I could see when I hear people say Ukraine is a 2-month-old baby in 3-degree weather. I want to know if that baby's alive and the parents. They don't show that. I noticed that when they sent a plane to deport Haitians being beaten in Texas, USA, the plane could deport people with afros, but they could bring back Afghans and give them $41 billion, etc. They can have an NYPD office in Israel. They can have no funds for Mali. I don't hear a word from Mali. That's 2022, what they are doing to the people of Mali. And now that they're gathered together and say, the French need to pack up and leave. We don't need what you're doing. We're fine without you. They're refusing to leave. They've never lived so lovely. If they go back to France, they couldn't live the way they live in Mali. Those are the things that people need to talk about, or the Afro people of Honduras, wherever you go in the world. We need to unite and get on page and stop being used and abused. And I want to hear this foolishness. They wasn't there for the people that look like us in Iraq, Iran. I don't care where you go in the world. And that's what they need to talk about. That is our focus. Though they say that the people of Putin, Russia, have never been in the slave trade, this, that, or the other. They didn't speak out concerning any of these things. So I don't understand what is our mental, mental capacity to even think of everyone except your own. What is wrong with us? The people that think that way. What is wrong with you?
I agree.
They're shooting and killing our children every day in the streets, murdering children. People in the hospitals are being murdered under the guise of, all this pandemic.
I get you, sis. Thank you for that. And again, like I said, the conditions in that area still remain the same today. In your own time, please, if you can find some information via Google on Glen Allen, Mississippi, or Webb, Mississippi, I'll pay you for it. That's how isolated they are.
There's still no representation, real representation today.
Right.
You say they got some black folks there.
It's only black folks there.
Yeah, but you said the elected officials.
They don't even have a mayor. The town is, listen, they're trying to starve them out for real. This is for real.
2022.
What's the date? March 9th, 2022. This is facts.
Yeah, maybe we need to.
This is facts. So, again, you can find that out on your own time. Any more questions?
What is the land like in Glen Allen?
Say again?
What is the land like? What is the value?
In that area, the only thing that you can do in that area is work in the chicken plants. That's if you have a vehicle, because to get to the plant is 45 minutes away from that town. The county jail is one of the worst in the nation. They actually had a reality television show called 60 Days In, where you had these people go inside and see what it's like to live in prison for 60 days. It was recorded to be one of the worst that they have ever seen to this day.
So infant mortality rate is pretty high. Understand?
You have women who, I watched a clip of a woman who was begging someone else for a ride to get to the nearest town so she can sell blood. When I'm telling you, you have children, 7, 8, 9 years of age, wanting to be drug dealers because there is no employment there. I'm telling you this. They are there to starve these people out. The shanty shacks still today are there. There is no running water. They literally catch rainwater for bathing, washing, or whatever it is that they do. Still to this day. So when I hear people talk about what's going on outside of the country, with Ukraine. I don't give a damn. That's white folks' business. And if they want to kill each other, go right on ahead. That's less worries we have. I have no concern about that. Listen, last week on Thorough Black Talk, we showed a clip of a public official in Ukraine. He clearly said out of his own mouth, our concern are for blue-eyed and blonde-haired folks. We showed the clip last week. So you can concern yourself with other folks' problems if you want to, while you suffer. Something is wrong with you, as Veronica said. But again, I'm not rocking with that. So any more questions in the Zoom?
Now I have a statement.
Real quick, brother.
Okay, peace, Sister Keisha. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for tuning in.
Donna Asbury Park, I had Know Thyself Study Group that Trust leads off for us. My statement was I wanted to challenge everybody that's here tonight to invite at least one young person, because I'm quite sure the average age on this Zoom meeting and this meeting tonight is about 50. Youngest, or young 50 and older. So I challenge everyone to invite one young person to come out so we can expand this information, by disseminating this information to the next generation is what our overall goal is. Because all of us are at mature stages and ages in our life, so we want to disseminate this information and pass it on to the next generation. Each one of us has to take on that challenge of inviting a young person. One young person. We have children, nephews, nieces, grandchildren. Invite one of them to sit down and take part in this information so then it can be passed on to the next generation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Filet, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Oh, yeah. Here for a while waiting. I didn't want to jump in until other people chance. But hey, Keisha, happy family. Wonderful job as usual, Sister Keisha. And
thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ray Ray.
Hey, Sister Filet.
It was a great presentation. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for comment and question. So, okay, we often talk about the history of our great heroes and heroes. My position is, so what work are we talking about doing that represents what they stood for, what they were trying to do, particularly in terms of Black women? This is a month that many are observing as Black women. And so my question to particularly the Black women is, are we ready to come together with a national collective agenda? Because we talk about what other people are doing, and we're going to continue to do that until we come up with our own everything. So my question again to Black women is, are we ready? And when do we think we're going to get ready to present the elevator, the Queen of the Harriet Tubman? So that's that. Again, we talk about history, but history is also not just in the past, but also in the present.
Right.
And it behooves us to not keep waiting
You're going in and out, Dr. Filet. You're going in and out.
Okay, it was from there. All right. Is that better?
Yes. Uh-oh. They don't want you to talk tonight, huh?
Are you here now?
Yes.
Are you here now?
Yes.
Okay. So my challenge is to Black women, and you can reach out to me anytime. I'm totally accessible and definitely ready, willing, and able to build on whatever level by any and all means necessary. And so again, kudos to you, Sister Keisha, Brother Ray Ray, as usual. I love my family, and I don't know if y'all know, y'all have some MWM sisters in the house tonight.
Yes, yes, I see.
Yes, yes. Right, sitting it out. Yeah. So Rona was saying about sitting it out, believe me, we already know, we do it. We sent it to some young folks and their families, so we're on it.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement with that. But in order to do that, we have to have some closed door sessions. For real, for real. And we need to do it quickly. Quickly. I understand what the solutions are, but we cannot discuss them in these open air arenas.
Oh, no, Sister Keisha, no, now you know me.
No, I know you. I'm just saying for everyone else that's watching.
Right, so there's some things that we can do, and it's obviously, as we know, that other people will be speaking to us in all other kinds of circles, and that's what you're doing, representing black women.
Right. Got you. All right, Rajon got a question. Hold on. Hey, don't start no trouble.
I figure Oprah is from Mississippi. Oprah has built schools in Africa. I figured we could put together a coalition and get Oprah to do something about the starvation of the people in Mississippi.
You get beat up after this is over.
I mean, is that...
Rajon is playing games.
Am I saying that?
You are. You are. Any other questions besides Rajon start trouble? So we can close out right and kick us out of here?
I want to say free the Panthers.
Facts. Free all political prisoners, right?
Yes. Tell them to talk about that. And congratulations to Richardina McIntosh, who's now a PhD. Hey.
Yeah.
Again, if you are interested in any of the books that Ray showed earlier, just reach out to him. He put his number in the chat, and he will make sure you get the prices and how he can get the books to you.
Still got one hand up on the Zoom.
Dr. Filet?
No, we talked to Dr.
I see one before that.
Oh, right here. IGH.
Oh, okay, I see it, yeah.
Keisha, just much appreciated this chat. I was wondering where the best place to send organizational information. You mentioned that there was a spot, perhaps a broadcast, I'm not sure, where you could share organizational information and send it your way.
Yes, we do have a weekly program. It's on YouTube and it's called Thorough Black Talk Worldview. And if you want to see any of the past lectures from the B.K. William Mackey Study Group, that is also on YouTube.
Much appreciated. So if there's an email or anything like that, where we can send organizations, campaigns, etc., that would be very well. And also, and you could all elaborate about the circumstances around Sister Van Hager's forced sterilization, because I have heard that occurred, and that's just really tragic, and unfortunately happens all too often. I haven't really heard much about the context of that. How did that come about? What were the circumstances? Was she incarcerated at that time?
No, she had went to the hospital for something, and let me try to explain this. When these people were working on plantations, their lives, their access to health care or whatever was in the hands of these plantation owners. They literally worked for their room and board, period. So when she went in, it was decided that she should be sterilized. And you can get more information about that in that book.
Did she also have a counterpart?
I'm not sure.
No.
All right, so again, thank you all for tuning in. If that's the last question.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just got...
How do we know the beating from Fannie Lou Hamer with the cattle prod did not damage her and prevent her from having children?
It was the sterilization.
Oh, they did that as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
she also was sexually assaulted.
That's what I'm coming.
Okay, listen, members, give yourself a big hand. Our Zoom audience, give yourself a big hand for giving us support. And I just got this from Lady V, the hardest working woman in the conscious community. Richardina McIntosh is now a PhD, our African queen. Congratulations. Free the Black Panther Party. BLA, let's see how the Afro, 2-month-old baby and parents.
Yeah, yeah.